All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit more about this whole thing that I talked about yesterday. I wanted to kind of build off it a little bit because I think this is a really, really important thing that, I think a lot of people they understand it, but I don't think enough people understand just how big this is. And you know, this is from Mark Towney here, and he says Canada's new four-point plan to reduce its carbon footprint by 2030. Number one, eliminate jobs. Number two, price food out of reach. Number three, let everyone starve. Number four, declare victory. Now, it's a little bit supposed to be a little bit funny in that it's not actually the technical way it's going to be done. I think the first 2 points are absolutely correct. The third point is correct to an extent, and the fourth one is correct depending on how you look at it. So let's break it down. I mean, what is the carbon tax doing? Well, of course, it's eliminating jobs, especially these private sector jobs. It is specifically designed to get rid of a lot of the oil and gas jobs and a lot of the jobs that are indirectly created because of those jobs, right? People got to manage the books. There's so many, indirect jobs that are created because of the oil and gas field that it's probably, hundreds of thousands of jobs in Canada, right? So again, people don't realize just how delicate this stuff is. And this is the other thing that a lot of the carbon and the climate zealots will bring up. Oh, well, we can just transition everything to renewables. Well, again, that's not realistic. And this is another thing that they bring up, that the amount of contradictions within these people, it's very astounding. And then on one hand they say, oh no, the renewables, they'll pay for themselves, but on the other hand it'll be, yeah, we got to spend hundreds of billions of dollars being put into renewables to make them not even be able to compete with oil and gas again. So it's very funny how on one hand they argue that it's just as good as oil and gas right now, but on the other hand we need hundreds of billions of dollars, especially when you add up all the taxes and government grants and government this and government that, to still not even be able to compete, right? It's absolutely astounding. So again, the goal is jobs are going to be eliminated. Some new ones will be created. I'm not saying that the renewable industry will create no jobs. I'm just saying that it's not going to offset the difference, and not even close. Um, Second one, again, not only price food out of reach too, but this is another thing too, that the costs of heating your house, again, it's like people forget we live in Canada. Like it's literally like people forget we live in Canada. They always compare us to California. Have you ever been to California? Like aside from the northern part, it is, 25 degrees and sunny pretty much every day, right? Pretty much every day. So again, it's not even close to a fair comparison. Like it's literally like comparing, you're comparing a country to where the average temperature in the winter is probably what, minus 10 to 15, to an area where the average temperature in the winter is like 20, right? So again, it's not even close to a fair comparison. Um, and again, like I say, that the cost of food's going way up. The cost of goods and services going up because again, believe it or not, this is another thing too, that the amount of people that just mad that they literally believe that food and goods and services just magically appear on the shelves and we just magically buy them. Again, these are the people that think that we can have a complete and utter lockdown. They're so ignorant to believe that that's not going to have negative effects. Again, what happens when you completely shut down production of goods and services for a month? Guess what? Goods and services aren't going to be on the shelves. Again, there's like again, like the amount of insanity, it just completely overwhelms me, and that I don't even know where to begin with these people. It's like, again, it's like dealing with 4 year olds. Like again, like stuff doesn't just magically appear on the shelves. But um, again, getting back to the main point here, price food out of reach. Again, the cost of living is going to go way up, right? The cost of living is going way up, and that wouldn't be, I mean, it's still a big deal, but if median wages were going up at the same rate, well, it still would be stupid. It would still would be stupid because if median wages were going up and the cost of living wasn't, that would be the ideal situation. But at least you could kind of understand. But again, median wages aren't going up. We are in a massive recession right now, and we're not getting out of it anytime soon. This is another one of the many very frustrating parts of this whole situation is that we have so many people that still think that, oh, it's just temporary, right? If we just lock down for a month, it would all magically disappear, right? We were told, oh, if once we get a vaccine, we'll be good to go. And then now we have the heads of these vaccine companies saying, oh no, it's only going to make a little bit of a difference. We can't even guarantee that, right? So again, this is not going to be a temporary situation. We're going to be wearing masks and having lockdowns, or at the very least calls for lockdowns for at least the next year and a half, right? Until um, at least at least the end of next winter. That I would be very surprised if it goes. Maybe it'll. I think some of the regulations and stuff will go away next summer, because I mean the cases have to go down eventually, even though they're incredibly fraudulent and fake, and at least half of them are complete bunk. Um, but anyway, like I say, that's what the next goal is. Number three, again, let everyone starve is kind of a hyperbolic way of saying it, but again, homelessness is going to go up, poverty is going to go up, and again, I think for declare victory, I think a better way of putting it is that's when the UBI is going to come in. That's when more socialism is going to come in, right? So again, the goal at the end of the day is very simple. It's to expand the size and power of the government, and lockstep with that is to push for socialism. It's incredibly clear. It's incredibly clear. And again, they've admitted this kind of stuff, right? The UN Agenda 2030 is basically, which again, Justin Trudeau's talked openly about pushing. This is another one of the crazy things of modern times, is we have politicians that can admit stuff on camera, right? On camera, and yet many people still think that it's a conspiracy theory, right? It's just pure insanity. So again, at the end of the day, the goal is basically to push for socialism. And people are probably wondering, well, why in the world would they want to cause all this pain and suffering, and why not just do it? Well, the problem is that you can't sell it people on. You can't sell people on it right now. Right? You couldn't sell people on what they want done right now. So what they do is they have to create these crises, right? They wanted to get rid of, they wanted to, maybe not completely get rid of, but reduce individual rights and freedoms. They wouldn't have been able to otherwise do that. So again, they let this virus situation get way out of control, right? They completely mishandle it and completely, just let it get way out of control, knowing that the solution all along is to get rid of people's rights and freedoms and to push for socialism, right? So, and again, I don't even think this is strictly a one-sided political thing. Like, is there a major conservative politician in Canada that's actually pushing back against this kind of stuff? Well, no, none of them. You could argue maybe Poilievre to an extent, but again, he still isn't even doing nearly enough, like not nearly enough. So again, there's no major, conservative politician in Canada that's actually pushing back against this kind of stuff. They are the definition of, controlled opposition. They may not even be controlled opposition. They may even be worse than that. So anyway, it's something that should be talked about a lot more, because again, people don't realize just how bad things are going to be coming out of this. Again, the reason why things appear to be fine right now is we have this illusion of all this free money, right? We have this illusion of all this free money that the government can just print endless amounts of money, and it's all going to be hunky dory, and that's not it's not how it works. That's not how reality works. Again, so people are going to be in for a very rude awakening at some point. The thing that bothers me most is that a lot of times it's too long. A lot of times it's too little, too late, and that's why I'm so concerned about this kind of stuff, is because I believe that the majority of people aren't going to wake up until it's too late. And again, speaking of that, from Stefan Molyneux here saying, sadly, the story of history is that almost no one wants to learn the easy way. And again, is exactly what I just brought up. Exactly what I just brought up. And again, people don't want to learn the easy way. People don't want to learn the easy way. And because of that, well, what's the only option is you learn the hard way. And what's the hard way? It's going to be massive amounts of pain and suffering, massive amounts of pain and suffering. And again, people think, and this is the many reasons why it's going to happen, is that people think, oh no, things are different because we have, things are so much different nowadays than they've always been throughout the past. We have the internet, we have all this stuff that we like to think that we're completely foolproof. And the problem with that is that the minute you think that it can't happen to you, it's going to happen to you. And the fact that we're completely unprepared for it is going to mean that it's going to hit us a lot harder than what it otherwise would have, right? And again, one of the many things people bring up is, oh no, we can't, we can't cut spending because if we don't, the poor are going to starve. Even though, again, that's completely false. In that, again, number one, if you cut spending, I mean, a lot of this government spending, it's not going towards helping the poor. If you look at the CERB or whatever the heck it is, I think less than half of the new debt is from CERB and all these other programs. The majority of the new government spending is just government throwing money at stuff that they're not even really telling us. But again, we don't even have a budget for this year. We don't even know where a lot of this money is going. So again, if the government was forced to cut spending, they wouldn't cut spend. I mean, eventually they would have to, but the top 10, 20, 30% of government could easily cut 10, 20% easily. I mean, look at the salaries of a lot of these, government employees that are making, 100, 200, $300,000 a year, and like, what do? They go to meetings? Like, come on. The spending could be cut so easily it's not even funny. Look at these government projects that always, you know, you, I wish there were like betting markets on this kind of stuff for government projects. Betting the over on the amount of time it gets to get this stuff done, and betting the over on the cost. That would be now you'd be a billionaire if you were making bets on that kind of stuff, because again, like, the problem being is that they have no incentive to do stuff the right way. They have no incentive to do stuff well, because what negative ramifications do they face if they screw up? They don't face anything, right? They don't face anything. And people say, oh no, they'll get voted out. Well, if Jason Kenney gets voted out next time around, you think he's going to have trouble finding a cushy, $100,000, $200,000 a year job? Of course he'll be able to get that with, he'll snap his fingers and he'll get a job. Like, so of course there's no incentive whatsoever to do it. Like, come on. This is from the New York Post, a very interesting story here titled Switzerland Cuts Its New, Infections in Half Without National Lockdown. Now, again, like I always bring up, I like to point out these situations because, again, it just completely contradicts the lockdown zealot narrative. And that their only argument, again, like, you ask these people for, okay, what pieces of data do you have to point towards you being right? And again, it's literally just Australia and New Zealand, right? Just Australia and New Zealand. What they don't tell people is that, number one, they closed down flights, right? They closed down flights. I mean, there's so many things that they don't tell you. It's not even funny. Number one, they closed down flights, which we have never done, which I think is one of the things that actually would reduce cases, which is very funny considering the lockdown zealots don't want it. The one thing that would reduce cases they don't want. It's very funny. Um, Other things that they did. Number one, they had much, much lower. I think the day that Australia closed down, they had like 200 new cases in the whole country, right? Like 200. We have what, 1,500 just in Alberta every day. Like, we're 5 times less population again. So it's literally like we literally have like probably upwards of 100 more times more cases than they did when they closed down. So again, they're completely unfair comparisons. And the other thing to point out too is that Australia is literally throwing people in jail for making social media posts that question the government. They're threatening to throw people in jail for walking their dog alone. Like, again, it's just pure and utter insanity there. And the other thing too is that it is the summer there too. It is the summer there right now. So again, our cases were really low in the summer. It is the winter here right now. Again, there's so many things just off the top of my head that I can bring up that completely contradict the Australia narrative. It's not even funny. And I haven't even done that much research into Australia. Like, this is stuff I've, figured out doing 5 or 10 minutes worth of research, right? So it's very funny. And another one of these classic examples, Austin Mayor urges people to stay home while on vacation in Mexico. Again, like I always bring up, I'm talking about like something like this almost every day. Like, literally almost every day I see something like this. And the thing I always bring up too is that at what point do we question the narrative? Like, how many of these politicians do we need to see not following their own rules before we start to question the narrative? Like, I'm genuinely curious. Like, I'm genuinely curious. And it's very astounding that nobody wants to talk about it. Like nobody wants to talk about it. It just absolutely astounds me. It absolutely astounds me. So anyway, like I say, I'm going to keep bringing these examples up because it's so funny and so ironic to bring up to these people that, they're big on the lockdowns, but yet they don't even follow their own rules. It's just it's so insane. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. If you haven't already, make sure you check out those links below. Make sure you follow me on those other platforms, like, subscribe. If you want to donate, you can do that as well. I got some links for that. Again, I appreciate whatever support I can get. So again, thanks for watching and stay tuned for more.